Hello everyone. It's the end of July. It is officially August 1st. And I read a lot of books this month. I read 8 books this month, which is crazy. I was just flying through them. I will not have that good of a reading year for a while, but a reading month for a while. But without further ado, let's get into it. You can tell by the thumbnail, I read some huge books this month and I cannot wait to talk about them. So the first 2 books that I completed this month was the aforementioned tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. These are the 5th and 6th books in the Throne of Glass series, which is the behemoth fantasy series that it is. So Empire of Storms is the 5th book and Tower of Dawn is the 6th. These are books that it is highly recommended that you tandem read them in conjunction with one another. So you're going back and forth between the 2 of them. You start off with like 5 chapters of Empire of Storms and you go read 3 chapters of Tower of Dawn. And then you go back and read etc, etc, etc until you finish it. There is a whole kind of order online that you can find. If you just look up tandem read Throne of Glass, this will pop up. I highly recommend the tandem read. I cannot imagine reading these books any other way because there are reveals that you get here that then add something here or vice versa, and then they go back. So it is the best way, in my opinion, to read both of these stories. You get a version of Chaol that, as this book follows him, that is just fantastic. And you see everybody else in Empire of Storms. It's fantastic. As I've said previously, I cannot really discuss plot in these books as it spoils a heck of a lot that has been revealed in the other books. But I do think, spoiler alert, now that I'm done with this series, that I'm going to do a video at some point talking about the series as a whole in a very spoilery discussion. If you're interested in that, that will be maybe a couple months down the road once things calm down a little bit in terms of book world, because we have I need to read all the Crescent City books before ACOTAR 6 comes out in 3 months, but it'll be perfect because I can read a book a month. Maybe I'll get faster than that, but at the very least I can just read them at a slower pace than what we've been cracking through these. So, but yeah, I have them all tabbed up. Perspective-wise, you can tell the difference in perspectives of these books. This one has a lot more than this one. This one only has 3 perspectives. It's kind of a breath of fresh air than whatever. And then I have them both tapped up on the sides. The things that I want to talk about with the friend that I am reading these along with, but these were my first 2 books of this month. The next book that I finished this month is one of the only non-fantasy books that I read this month, which is Marilla of Green Gables by Sarah McCoy. I loved this book so much more than I thought I was going to. It follows Marilla and her brother Matthew in their youth. Marilla's like 15, 16-ish. Matthew 17, 18 because he's a year or 2 older. And we see her story and we see why she is the way she is now, and we see her friends that she has when she was that age, and we see Matthew a little bit and him try to date a girl and then can't because she just is not interested in the awkward farm boy that he is. We see their family, we see their family dynamics, we see their mother, we see their father. We see their aunt who comes to stay with them for a little bit because their mother is pregnant. Just all sorts of things. And we see their story and we see all of these things. And it is such a wonderful breath into what their perspective may have. And I think Sarah McCoy does a wonderful job of keeping the Anne of Green Gables spirit and Ella Montgomery's spirit while still telling a story in her own way, and how Green Gables gets named and all those kinds of things. So if you are a fan of Anne of Green Gables, I highly recommend this book. Even though it's not written by Ella Montgomery and it's not an official book of the series. I think Sarah McCoy does a fantastic job of pulling in the world of Anne into a story about Marilla and a story about their family and life, and we get to see what Green Gables looked like and all of the things prior to Anne coming around and everything. So highly recommend this book if you are interested in Anne of Green Gables or you love it as much as I do. But yeah, loved this book. The next book that I read this month, I do not have physically with me because I read it as an ebook, which is The Play by Elle Kennedy. This is the third book in the second series within the Briar University universe. So this is the third book in the Briar U chunk of books. It's been so long I cannot even remember the name of the couples the names of the couple that we follow in this book. I'm horrible, but anyway, it was great. It was fun. These books they're just a breath of fresh air. They're just fun. They tease each other. They have fun with each other, all the things. So it's great in the Briar universe. It's a fun little romance series to be reading, and I've slowed down. I've forced myself to read one a month and just have that one little story. And yeah, but if you liked Off Campus as a show and you like those characters and that energy, I recommend you continuing on with the series. I hope to finish the entire world of these books by the end of the year, or at least by the start of next year. So as long as I can read a book a month and whatever, and Elle Kennedy has a new one coming out in, I want to say March. So like maybe I'll be caught up by then, that I can tack on to the next generation of books by that point. So anyway, loved that book. It was great. Wonderful. The next book that I finished this month was Gods and Monsters by Shelby Marin, I think might be how it was pronounced. I've been pronouncing it incorrectly. This is the third book in the Serpent and Dove trilogy, and I was disappointed by this book. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars because I did get through it and I did still enjoy it by the end. There were pieces of the ending that saved it, but the series follows a witch named, oh my gosh, I can't even remember, a witch named Lou and a witch hunter named Reed. And Lou and Reed end up, in the first book, they are caught inappropriately, so they say, and so they're forced to get married. Well, she's a witch and he's a witch hunter, and she knows that he's a witch hunter, but he doesn't know she's a witch yet. And so the first book follows them, and we get the kind of the teasing and her figuring out how do I navigate this, and yada yada yada. Well, and though the first book was great, I enjoyed the second book because they're going on this journey together with some other witches. And then we get to this book, and something happens at the end of the second book that kind of flips everything on its head, and you wonder, well, how are we going to get out of this? And then this book happens, and we do get out of it. Spoiler, kind of. Not really. It takes a bit, and there's hardship, and there's problems, and there's all these things. But there's a plot point in this book that I feel like carries us in a whole nother direction. And I didn't love that tactic because I felt like it caught, like we were fighting then two things at the same time, because we get one and we lose the other, and then we're just kind of feeding the rest of the book. And it only gets fixed in the last like 3 chapters, and it just, like, we get there and we get it, but then we're still struggling, and it caused and took the entire like series coming to a head, and this big battle and this big thing that we know we've been working towards, and just made it not like, I wish if that was a plot hole that we wanted, that we would have maybe made it 4 books and taken this and made this the 3rd book, and then drawn out the rest of it to make it the 4th book. Because it all just kind of happens and it ends, and then we're done. And we all live happily ever after. Kind of. Read the book if you want to. But I don't know, I feel like trilogies, the 3rd book does sometimes just fall lackluster, and I did not enjoy this. I don't know if it was the space in which I had between the 2nd and 3rd book, because I read the 2nd book in like February, and so that was July. Is that the reason? I'm not sure. If you've read these books and you did really enjoy the last book, let me know, and let me know what your thoughts are. Because because I just I didn't love this. I didn't love it. The next book that I read this month was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This was our book club pick for July, and this book is weird. I quite enjoyed it once I got to the second half, but you walk through the first half of this book going, what is happening? Why am I reading these things? So this book is split into, this book follows a young man named Zachary, who we always know is called Zachary Ezra Rollins the entire book. He's either called Zachary or Zachary Ezra Rollins. There is no, or Mr. Rollins, but like, there is no Zachary, just only for the most part. It is mostly the entire name, which bugged me a bit. But it follows him, and he finds this book in a library. And then this story takes him on this journey into this other world. And we meet some characters who help him along the way. And it's told in parts, but those parts are books that he's found that we're kind of piecemealing. And so we're reading these other books while we're also reading the main story, which is weird. What I will say, if you have not read this book yet or read like something like this, read the other stories and just get that you're not going to get it until like 3/4 of the way through. Take in the characters, take in the story. It will all make sense eventually. I wish I had had that advice before going in, because I found myself completely skimming these other stories because I was like, I don't care about this. I want to get back to the main story. Like, I don't understand what this other story is. And then you get to 3/4 and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Or wait, no, this connects. Okay. Oh, that's really cool. But you don't get that initially. It's a weird, weird book. Go into it knowing it's a weird, weird book and you'll really enjoy it. If you go into it expecting a literary masterpiece that's going to make sense from the beginning, don't worry. It's not going to. It won't make sense. There's still things that I'm like, wait, were we supposed to know that before? Because now we've just been told it on page like 350. Okay, cool, great, wonderful. And move on. I think it would be interesting to reread this book now that I've read it and I know the characters in the story and where we end up. Overall, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was great. I did enjoy it by the end, but it took a long time to get there. And unfortunately, some of the other people in my book club did not enjoy it because they are not fantasy people, or they wanted it to have more hoorah at the end or whatever, and it just didn't. And it's a fantasy story that, like, it's a standalone. This is the only book we're getting. But it could have been 2 books. We could have gotten a duology and had it be a little bit more fleshed out, because we did rush through things and there's other things that I want to know about, but this is it. That's all we get. So anyway, recommend it if you like a weird fantasy story. The next book I read this month, I read because I needed just a bit of a break from some fantasy, because I was about to start the last book that I read this month. So I needed a little breath of fresh air, and that is Talk Bookish to Me by Kate Bromley. This book was fun. I found myself enjoying it. It took a bit to get into it and understand what was happening, but it follows this kind of enemies to lovers kind of relationship. Our main character, Kara, is going to this wedding of her best friend, and she's helping. Well, lo and behold, her college ex-boyfriend, and the person who she shared lots of firsts with in her life, is a groomsman, and they did not realize they were connected, and yada yada, things happen. He ends up having to move in with her because he had brought a dog with him, and there's lots of chaos and everything, and it was just fun and flirty and silly. It is by no means a literary masterpiece. Most romances aren't. They're very well written, but they aren't like, they all follow pretty, there's a genre of romance books that they follow a typical pattern. This followed the typical pattern. And it was fun. It was lovely. and they got together way faster than I thought they were going to, which was fun. And then they were together for a good chunk of the book, which was really nice because that doesn't usually happen. And so, and it was all like book based because she's a romance writer. She's a historical romance writer. So like she's writing about her romance and all the things. And it was great. So if you want a fun, flirty little romance book, pick up the last book that I just finished last night, because it is August 1st as I am filming this, was The Behemoth That Is Kingdom of Ash. No, this was not on my TBR this month, but I thought, you know what? My other friend started it, and to make life easier for myself in reading Crescent City, I thought, let's just hammer it out. Let's get her done. Oh, I laughed. I cried some more. I smiled and I felt great about myself, and I cried some more. I am so happy that the series has been buttoned up like it has been. I hope that we get to see these characters in this new book or in Crescent City somehow, etc. And it just absolutely phenomenal. It's tabbed up like nobody's business. She's almost 1,000 pages. She's beautiful. I need to go back and finish my perspective tabbing because I gave up halfway through. I said this takes me out of it too much, so I'm gonna just pause on that and just keep reading, and I will finish it later for my future self. But I loved this book. This book was great. The whole series was absolutely fantastic. I love Lorcan. If you haven't read the books yet, you may have met him yet, you may have not. You may be like, why do you love him? I do. He's just a lovely character. I love him. There's some characters that I do love that are not maybe love Manon. Love her to pieces. Oh, love her. Probably the two most unlikely characters to love. I love all of them, but those are the two that I'm like, oh, love Lorcan, love Manon. They're great. They're wonderful. Great. Can't talk about the plot because she's the 7th, technically 8th book in this ginormous series. So it's great. I love it. And that is all I read this month. That's a lot of books though. And 4 of them they're big. They are not for the week. But there's a lot of fantasy this month. I'm hoping. I love fantasy. It's obviously one of my favorite genres. But do I want a little bit of a break from it? We'll see if that happens next month. But that's my goal. So anyway, that's all I have for this video today, guys. And I will see you guys all in my next video, whenever it is. Goodbye.